Hey everyone, so there's a new interview with the devs that came out. It's a written interview on MMORPG. So they're talking about their plans, how to keep it going, basically, for the years to come, what their plans are for DCUO. So they're talking about how long this game will be running, and not many MMOs they can brag about running for so long. There's Warcraft, EverQuest, EVE Online, and RuneScape. So they're very rare MMOs that can actually brag about being around for so long. This year is 14 years old, so it makes sense. Um, so the interviewer asked them, what exactly is the secret behind the success of this universe online? So the most obvious answer to me is that there are people who want to play games with people as superheroes. It's a very social thing to do. Senior game designer Chad Brown, this is Red 5, tells me in an interview. There's only a handful of MMOs that are in the Decade Blues Club. Ari Vera, creative director for this Universe Online, says. It's really cool to hear what they have to say and their thoughts. Ed Five is someone we've seen a lot of the streams as well, so he's been very active with the community. So it's really cool to hear his thoughts as well about what's coming and how he sees the community and the game basically. I don't know if there is any one single formula that explains why one single MMO works versus another, but what I do know is that it's important that you're consistent. You're constantly releasing good content, that you're constantly releasing quality goods, and that you're listening to the players. You react to the players. In a game as massive DCO, you've got to try different things, but you also have to be true to what the fans want. They have selected what they want from this game, which is true. We all have different things we like doing. Like I like base decorating, this player likes elite, this player likes chase feet. So everyone really have the things they can do if you're focused on styles or being iconic. So there's so many options on what you can do in this game. So each part of the community kind of has their own thing. Sometimes you try something and it's not what they like, and you listen and adapt to it. It continued. So I believe it's Rivera. Since this year launched, two console generations have passed, and that's not even getting into the discussion of how much graphic cards and CPUs in the PC space have evolved in that period. Has the team at Daybreak discussed changing the game to take advantage of newer hardware, taking inspiration from newer MMOs, even after the delays that clogged the next generation patch for the MMO? A little secret about the game developers is that we all see things we want to put in our games, explained Red. I'm gonna say there's the developer name, Red 5. You have to be very careful about it because you see a system that you want in the game and sometimes it's not the right fit. You really have to be particular about it. But first in MMO trends, the biggest thing I can think of is that we want the game to be more accessible. We want to be an easier process to just play the game unless you really want to play the hard elite level stuff. The latest update for popular MMORPG Day of Reckoning stars a new story arc known as the Light and Rain arc. The big plan is here. Rather than the fairly self-contained episodic stories that the MMO relied on in the past, these stories will actually tease and lay seeds for what's to expect in the future of DCUO. This also means that story threads laid down by Light and Rain will later be paid off in episodes released over the course of the year. This, I'm told in an interview with the team last week, is an attempt to replicate the storytelling from comics themselves and how story beats that were set up issues earlier can suddenly blossom into something messy further down the line. As a crescendo, one is to only look at the setup going all the way from Grant Morrison's Seven Soldiers to the final Crisis event to find an example on it. Wow, there's a lot to read. This also leads to the question of what recent DC Comics storylines DCO is planning to pull content from. Recent events such as Absolute Power, Night Heroes, and Dark Crisis on Infinity Earth provide some messy board ending stakes. Meanwhile, Smaller, more personal stories, such as the newly launched Absolute line of books, show off different takes on the DC universe, allowing for a twist on a well-established world. Could Vera see herself in the Absolute universe anytime soon? I really hope so. One of the things that I want to make sure that happens on DCUO is that we remain current with our content. As current as possible to what's going on in DC Comics. Rivera explains. He continues to absolute power the Absolute universe and some stuff that I don't want to talk about yet. Ooh. We're working on with DC directly on stuff that we're excited about, that the fans are excited about, and I can tell you that you will see Absolute Universe stuff in our game. Yes! I really hope to see Absolute Wonder Woman. Look, her story is just amazing. Same for Superman, Absolute Superman. They did a really good take on these characters. It's very unique. So if they can make it into the game, like Wonder Woman with the magical prosthetic arm and all that, well, it's going to be amazing. But also, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves because often DC is still writing stuff. They're creating, they're changing, and we don't want to do something where we find out that they've already changed the idea. That's not to say that the DC Universe Online only adapts stories from the comics, run for it. The MMO is known for unique stories that you can't really find anywhere else, but finding the line for that can be interesting. The team adapts existing stories to fit their framework. Red 5 explains the big one that sticks out to me is Teen Titans and Judas Contract. We've got Terra and that's working against the Teen Titans. This is the process where you familiarize yourself with the storyline and work out how to fit it into our game. But some of the story does get morphed a little, so it's not direct translation, which I like it because it means you have two separate sources that tell two different stories. A lot of the content we have is a reflection of the narrative in the comics. Rivera continued. A great example is our last episode, Harley Quinn vs. Apocalypse. That was something we wanted to do because it's really fun series that we were excited about. It's a very fun series. We re-envisioned the story, telling it a little differently, but it more or less told the story from the comic. Building off of this, we will expand how he's hoping the new Light and Rain story arc will change things moving forward in DCO. A lot of what I would like to do going forward is to dig deeper and see what's either current stories or beloved stories and kind of show some of the narrative threads that were left unexplored and what could be done in a parallel to culminate in an event. I wanted to tie into the greater narrative to give players a different experience with Easter eggs for the fans who look into the stuff. That's the kind of narrative I'd like to tell. Well, I love it. As someone who loves stories and love the comics and all that, for me, it's amazing. It just needs to you need to work good with the way the content itself plays out. Because once it's fun to play, it's also fun to listen to the story. So it has to be a good balance. 10 years is a long time, not just in video games, but in technology in general, and a lot has changed since then. While we have multiple examples of MMOs hitting the decade mark, some even well into the second or third decade at this point, this year's Staying Power highlights that there is still an audience for a superhero-themed MMO, one where players can live out their fantasies catching villains or being one themselves in such an iconic universe. And with a new shift in how stories are told within Dimensional Inc.'s MMO DCO, feel poised to continue to thrive well into the second decade. So that's a very interesting interview. There's a lot of good points that being bringing here about the story and the fact that the game need changes, the fact that you need to listen to the player base. There's a lot of things here that needs to be worked on. Again, how you make the story work with combat and making it interesting to play, not just the story itself being interesting, but it needs to be interesting to actually go through the story. This is a delicate balance that every game needs to go through and find the solution for that, and it takes time. Specifically because there are a new team that just started now working on that. And it's a completely new thing because this is not how things used to be in DCO. Just the thing is we need to do the same thing over and over again every day, so it gets a little rough for some of us to maintain interest to keep running it. But I'm sure that they will take the feedback and try to do both, which I think is something that will happen eventually because the team is also adapting to the way the engine works and they're learning so they can actually make better content, whether it's harder, whether it's more interesting mechanics. So it will be really cool to see where it's going from here. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm very excited for the Absolute Universe stuff because I want the Wonder Woman skin and all the style she has. And in general, I think it's a very interesting universe that they can adapt to the game. So yeah, let me guys know what you think in the comments below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.